Yo, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again with another interesting Jay Slater video. I think this is Inquest Part 4. We had to let the Inquest simmer for a minute because there was various other topics that I needed to bring to your attention in regards to Jay Slater, but now we are back. What I want to talk about in this video is the Dutch team, because there was a part of the Inquest where the Dutch team shared their opinion and told us exactly what they'd done whilst they were in Tenerife. Now, we have to give ourselves context here because we do remember the Dutch team arrived in Tenerife on the 14th of July. So prior to them landing in Tenerife, there's 28 days worth of information that they might not even know about. Chris T from the 1st of July more or less took over the rescue mission, and everybody online as well as people on the grounds were getting a lot of their information from Chris T, which means the narrative that Chris was painting, the narrative that Chris was putting together, that was the narrative that a lot of people were buying into. But you got to think, what made Chris so adamant that Jay was there? I'll tell you what made him so adamant that Jay was there is because they always knew Jay was there. That's the reason why they had the screenshots. Remember, let's not deviate. Our theory had always believed that Jay was there. Jay was never planted there, dumped there, or any of those type of things. Although we kind of entertained the idea, although we had to theorize to try and understand whether it was possible, I personally never believed that Jay had been dumped. There were so many distractions taking place that, in my opinion, were purposely being engineered. It led a 29-day rescue mission. It took 29 days to find Jay based on the engineered distractions that were created by the people that were involved in this case. The conspiracies that Mark Williams Thomas loves to talk about, it wasn't even created by him. He's just the one that published them. He's the one that broadcasted them. They were engineered, as I said. They were given to him by people he trusted. He believes were giving him facts, but they weren't giving you facts, were they, Mark? Because the two knife theory wasn't a fact. Rolex situation wasn't a fact, Mark. Jay never got involved in stealing a watch. He never stole a watch. He never even writ that message. He never sent any picture or any video to anyone with two knives stuffed down his trousers. Mark, you were literally just sitting in a theater and you lapped up someone else's production and you took that and made it your own. You published it to the world. The comments that get left under the Mirror, the Daily Mail, the Metro, all of the comments that get left under their accounts are absolutely disgusting, absolutely vile. It's those media outlets that have allowed it. In fact, it's those media outlets that have more or less produced it. I've literally digressed, but the points that I made actually bring us back to the Dutch team, because the Dutch team landed on the 14th. So therefore, when the Dutch team landed, they had spoken to people that had been searching for Jay, and they was given a certain narrative. So we've got three things that we're going to look at here, ladies and gentlemen. Search team on the hunt for Jay. Impossible, Jay was carried. That's very, very interesting. We're going to get to that, ladies and gentlemen. But let's get to the search team. So the search team said the Inquest is now hearing from the Dutch rescue team, which assisted with the search for Jay. Now, let's be honest, it didn't actually assist with the search for Jay because Jay was already found by the time they started following the trail. But we can say they had the intentions to fly over to assist, to help find Jay. It's kind of like the moment the Spanish authorities knew the Dutch were flying in to help a third party, the body was recovered. But it didn't make the trip for no reason. And this is where and how they start to, gather their opinions, because Debbie kindly asked them if they could follow Jay's trail, basically, the trail that he would have walked, allegedly, just so that the family could get a bit of closure. They wanted to understand the mindset of Jay. Why would Jay be walking this way? That's what they were trying to understand. Now, you have to say at this point, it's 28 days later. A narrative has already been painted. That narrative is Jay saw the V-notch and started to head towards the sea. Question you have to ask is why? Of course, no one's going to ask that question, especially no one from the Dutch team, because their job is literally just to follow the trail at this point. Just follow the trail. But it says here the team used search dogs, which had been given clothes worn by Jay from his mum in order to track his scent. The route Jay took was initially pretty easy, but the location where his body was found is really steep and really dangerous. So that then means what Brad told us in his interview when he said Jay wouldn't have went all the way down there, he would have went back on the path again, is more or less Brad telling us where Jay's body was. And off the back of Brad telling us that, who takes control of the rescue mission? Chris Tenerife. And then from there, that's when the picture about the V-notch and all of this was then created by Chris and his team. And these guys have been sold that same narrative. So their opinions, before they've even taken the journey, are going to be based on that narrative. It's the same with Dr. Adley. The same narrative has been given to Dr. Adley, an accident by misadventure. That's the reason why Chris Tenerife and the accident group have always said, wait to the inquest. wait till you hear from the coroner, because they knew what the coroner was going to say. The coroner was going to regurgitate exactly what the Spanish reports have put together, and that was an accident by misadventure. It brings us back to the rescue team, because again, they're also buying into the same narrative, and their opinions are going to be based on what? The same narrative. Although they was there to do a good job, and they was there to do a good deed, and they was there working on behalf of the family, and they were doing exactly what Debbie was asking of them, there was still a level of engineering that had been done 28 days prior to them arriving. So the body was found in a really steep but really dangerous area, and you have to ask yourself, what the hell was Jay thinking? Why would Jay decide to go down all of those rocks, locations where the Guardia Civil and the average person looked at and said, oh, to get down there, you're going to need ropes and a harness? Jay was thinking differently. Jay decided to climb down it wearing shorts and a t-shirt with no rope, no harness, no equipment whatsoever. At the time of them telling us that, remember, they were trying to sell to us that Jay made those decisions because he consumed a number of different party drugs, and he had consumed all of this alcohol and blah, 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 blah. But it's funny that they're selling us that vision. It's funny that they're selling us that narrative. Why? Because according to Abe, there was nothing wrong with Jay. According to Josh, there was nothing wrong with Jay. According to Brad, there was nothing wrong with Jay. According to Ramon Hernandez, there was nothing wrong with Jay. According to Ophelia, there was nothing wrong with Jay. In fact, Jay was walking confidently. He was brisk walking down the road. According to Mr. Diaz, Ramon's friends, there was nothing wrong with Jay. So that's 6 people that are now trying to tell us that, no, there was nothing wrong with Jay. Jay seemed normal, didn't seem distressed, didn't seem to fear for his life. I don't know where Mark Williams Thomas is coming from with all that. He felt scared and he had 2 kitchen knives and blah, blah, blah. I don't know where he got that from. Although the one person who's confirming everything was okay with Jay is the one that told Mark Williams Thomas about the knives. That guy, Josh, can't even verify what he said to Mark's even true. Bearing in mind, none of the key witnesses turned up to the inquest, but Josh, the guy that doesn't even know Jay, guy that had all of the information, he was there, dead on time. But again, where Jay's body was found just really doesn't make any sense to me, and it has to make you question what the hell was going through Jay's mind. But then you have to think, if Jay got there, if Chris Tenerife was able to get there, if the rescue search team, the Dutch team, was able to get there, it means other people could have got there as well. So we move up and it says the Dutch search and rescue volunteers said they can imagine how Jay thought he was going to make it from the Airbnb to the coast. Yeah, they looked at the route that Jay took and they said, yes, you can imagine how Jay thought he was going to make it. Who told you that Jay thought he was going to make it to the beach? Who even told you Jay was heading to the beach? Like, how did we get to the point where we have confirmed that Jay was trying to get to the beach? Are we just basing that on where his screenshot location was and where the body would have been found? They said it probably would have taken around 3.5 hours from where Jay was last seen to where he was found. 3.5 hours, ladies and gentlemen. So the Dutch team are claiming from the Airbnb to Jay's point of destination, it would have taken 3.5 hours, which means there was enough time for the friends to get to that location and save him. There was enough time to get there and bring help to the rescue. There was enough time. Jay didn't have to continue walking through the ravine. Brad, Lucy, any one of them could have encouraged him to stop walking and stay where he is. Go back on the road and sit on one of the white blocks. We'll be there in a few moments. I mean, especially for Lucy, because she was at the Airbnb. So, I mean, I don't understand how you're trying to paint this picture to make it look like it was allegedly waved out of his face, but when he gets to the Airbnb, he's sober enough to know what he's doing. He's sober enough to ask a number of people about the bus times, although he doesn't even get on the bus, and decides to walk the wrong way and cut through a ravine. And Mark Williams Thomas says there's nothing to investigate, and I knew it was an accidental fall the whole entire time. Last bit here says the Dutch rescue team volunteers have said there would be no reason why anyone would follow the route which Jay walked unless they were heading towards the sea. But what I get from that message is that although there is no reason why anyone would follow that route, clearly someone did follow that route. Jay did. Therefore, other people would have been able to follow the same route. The route that you claim was easy to take. Jay must have walked there himself because you can't carry somebody down there. You can't carry somebody down there. How do they know somebody can't be carried down there? Did they try and attempt to carry someone down there so they know it's impossible? Because they said it's impossible. How would it have been impossible? How would they know if it's impossible if they haven't attempted to try and carry someone down there? It's extremely weird because I remember Sluggy the side chick actually said on the live that it is possible that 4 strong, healthy men could have carried Jay down there. Or he did insinuate, I don't think he directly said, but Chris kind of halted him and said, hold on, Sluggy, are you insinuating that 4 strong, healthy men could have carried Jay down there? What about climbing up there? It is possible that Jay could have been coming up from the beach. If that's the case, and he had to try and climb out of the ravine, I mean, that would have been extremely difficult, more difficult than climbing down it, in my opinion, especially if you don't have the right equipment. And again, if no one has thoroughly investigated this side of things, if no one has thoroughly investigated the Maruba boat and what it was doing at 8:50 on the Masca beach and on that secluded beach, then you're never going to know if Jay was on that boat. You're never going to know. According to the Dutch team, anyone could have got to that location of where Jay was, but no one could have carried a body to that location. That is what they're basically saying. So is it fair to say that if no one carried Jay to that destination, but other people could have got to that destination on foot because it was easy to get there, is it fair to say that Jay was threatened and taken there on foot and left there to fend for himself, to find a way back for himself, which ultimately led to him falling and dying? I think that's just as possible as them telling us Jay went the wrong way, walked for 3.5 hours through a ravine to fall off a cliff accidentally. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to know what you are thinking after this one. Make sure you comment down below. Leave all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. This Jay Slater case is extremely mysterious, and there's still so much more to get through. So you guys don't want to go anywhere. Turn your notification bells on so you don't miss out on future Jay Slater uploads or any videos. And hit that like button, yeah? Make sure we hit that like button. We're going to be back here with another one. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.